I'm Wayne Carey, and this is The Truth Hurts.
Well, we're back for another episode of The Truth Hurts. I'm Ayrton and Woolley with the King, Wayne Carey. Duck, good to see you.
Yeah, very good. A little bit toey because, as you know, I'm going into hospital tomorrow.
Toey? Oh, nervous toey.
Yeah. Oh, very funny. No, a little bit toey. This happened obviously a couple of weeks ago. I was meant to go in, didn't. So, I'm up and about.
The shoulder,
the shoulder's going to be done. And so next week I'll be here in a sling. So can't wait. So I got a little bit of, took a little bit of steam off on the weekend. I didn't end up going to the Wiz's birthday party. That's Warrick Capper, who, as we know, had the falling out with Ricky Nixon, and Ricky had his last week and the Wiz had his this week. And I'm led to believe that it was a real shebang. It went right off. More of a party than the Chooks. He won't want me to say that, but I heard, he had bands. Bernie Vince, Renee Kink was there. Sammy Newman turned up. He doubled up for the two of them. But I heard it went right off.
Wow.
Not as good as the Chooks.
Of course not. And you didn't go.
I didn't go either. But
now, you've got shoulder surgery this week. My little medical story of the week isn't quite as dramatic as yours, but I've just come from the dentist. It started off well. He said, "Oh, yeah, your teeth are looking good. I'll just take a quick x-ray of your teeth. That's where they see what's in between your teeth." So I probably brush my teeth 3 times a day. Do you floss?
Not as much as I should, no.
So not at all?
Yep.
I'm the same. I don't. It's never been in my routine. Anyway, so...
Haven't got time to floss.
So apparently there's a fair bit of crap between my teeth. And he said, righto, we can either numb your mouth and so it won't hurt, or I can get it out. And I said, am I going to be able to talk? I've got to do a podcast in half an hour because I booked it. It was a bad bit of planning. Anyway, he said, yeah, you won't be able to talk. So I had to go through it. My gums are all bloody and...
Now, you got a fair size of chompers on you. You could eat an apple through a tennis racket, I reckon.
Anyway, I'm in a bit of discomfort, so I just want to say I'm pushing through today. My mouth is hurting, so I've pushed through for you.
Well, I went over the other thing that I did on the weekend, other than not go to the Wiz's birthday. I had to go over to Adelaide. So I had a luncheon over there, caught up with the great Mark Rasciuto and a couple of friends of mine, and it really irks me. Not Roo. Roo's not tight. He doesn't mind, shouting a lunch here and there. But a good mate of mine, I won't mention his real name, Bomber, his name is, and he's one of my best mates. I've known him since I was 15. But it just really, he's a guy that he's single. He's been single for his whole life. He's a year older than me, so he's 53 years of age. He's never really had a girlfriend other than his first ever girlfriend when he was about 15.
It's a sledge. Yeah.
Fair to say, girls, they just don't put up with his lifestyle. He's got a great business. He loves playing golf, and he's a man of the night. He loves going to adult venues, right? And doesn't mind forking out. But then you ask him to meet me in Melbourne, or let's go to Queensland for a holiday, or let's go to Bali for a week and catch up. And he's gone, oh, have you seen the prices of the of the tickets at the moment? I go, mate, you spend that in one night. Why? What is it about people that are not prepared to do things like that? But then on the other side, I know they probably get instant gratification with that money spent, but a holiday surely.
Yeah, you'd think so. So the old short arms, long pockets.
I mean,
what about buying a round of drinks or something?
There's a lot of people. No, he's fine like that. Okay. He's okay like that. Probably not as regular as he should, but it sort of started thinking about people that we know that are that are pretty tight.
This is dangerous territory.
No, a lot of senior coaches are tight. You hear a lot of rumours about they didn't like paying for certain things. Boomer Harvey has a very big reputation at North Melbourne.
Well, give me an example. What are we talking? What charges everything back to the club or something?
But the thing about Boomer, and I've heard him say it publicly, he owns it.
Yeah,
I do like the fact if you are tight, just own it. But there are so many out there. I don't get it. I reckon, and then I've got other mates that are too generous. So what they do is when they've got money, right, they just shout at everyone. So invariably they never have money. So then you end up shouting them more the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. But they're generous on the flip side. So just just those people just can be really annoying.
Does that make me think actually about Tony Jones, who I worked with at Channel 9?
Yeah, everyone knows Tony. Talk about teeth, chompers.
Look, it comes up in the group chat every now and then. I know the Sunday
He's
Footy
a good guy, by the way, Tony. I like Tony.
I know the Sunday Footy Show boys rib him a bit about this, but the boxing, you've heard the boxing story, haven't you, at Tony? So
Tony was never boxed, has he?
no, he's never boxed, but he hosted a main event, you know, where you pay.
Oh yeah, pay-per-view. Yeah.
Pay-per-view, and he's invited a whole lot of guys over. This is many, many years ago now. And he's put on a bit of food and stuff like that, and he's asked the boys for $10.
Oh no!
He got to his
Oh, for the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
and the food.
yeah.
Oh, you can't. He did it.
He did.
Oh, you did.
He's never lived it down, Tony. Unfortunately,
I actually went over to Sally's 2 weeks ago and watched the UFC. So Shivo sat down with Shivo and Ella and everyone there. When we watched he didn't charge anything. So are you kidding? I tell you who I ran into talking about pay-per-view. I ran into Tommy Bell Chambers as well.
Oh, yes.
I squeeze a lot into a week.
You do, even when you're not doing. You said you had a quiet weekend.
Yeah, no, I walked in. Little Charlotte's got a bit of a. I know I talk about the kids a lot, but she's got a little bit of a cold, a little bit of tonsillitis or the flu. So I went into the chemist to get some cough medicine and a bit of Nurofen and a few other things. And Tommy Bell was in there, and I walked straight up to him and I said, "Tommy," I said, "Fed, great result." I said, "That was great," you know, blah blah blah. He said, "Yeah, a couple of my mates told me what you thought about us footballers as boxers."
Oh, no.
And he goes, "You know what, Duck? I totally agree with you."
That's good.
He said, "I won't ever be fighting another boxer or whatever." He goes, "But yeah, it was." He said it was good fun, but yeah, I don't want.
For those who didn't hear, what did you? You said that it was.
I said that footballers shouldn't box because they can't. I mean, there's Mundine and Gallen and Sonny Bill. I said, Mundine being the exception to all of those guys, but Gallen and Sonny Bill can certainly fight, but against other footballers, not other boxers. But Big Tommy, he loved it. He had a time. He owned the fact that he's definitely not a boxer. But it's interesting when you do that, when you actually make comments on someone and then they come up. And I love it when they do agree, because you know what that means. He's honest with himself.
Yeah, well,
I like that.
That's interesting. It plays into before I go. I just want to get your opinion on something else I did on the weekend. But that topic, I saw a Fox Footy preview actually about a chat with Patrick Cripps and Gary Lyon, and it was Patrick Cripps interviewing Gary and talking about how he's paid to have an opinion. And we've spoken about this previously with your columns and that sort of thing when we talk about coaches, and because often there's calling for coaches to be sacked, and you've never liked doing that. You don't like calling for people's jobs, but you were paid to have an opinion and strong opinion. So how do you weigh up that human side, knowing that this is going to affect someone, versus saying what you think
you've always got to remember, and we've all fallen into it. I did the media for a long time, and I would have stuffed up at different times and made comments that were a little too strong. Well, you've got to always remember is that you played the game, and the game is actually tough to play. So when I hear players are really critical about a player not showing courage, unless you're Glenn Archer or Paul Kelly or those guys that I mentioned in my toughest ever footballers, unless you're one of those, then you probably shouldn't be making too many comments about people's courage, because we've all shit ourselves at some point. And I think that a lot of people in the media are hypocritical. And by the way, one of the great special comments people and analytical people in the game is David King, and he's really good. And I love that he breaks down the game and talks about defensive attitude. Mate, he played on blokes with a 40-foot leg rope. He never manned up in his life. But you know what? So when you've just got to remember that you played, and you played in a certain way. So don't forget that. More importantly, what irks me about that, and I'd love Paddy Cripps. I don't know. We'll listen to the interview during the week, but when they make comments about what players do off the ground, and what they get up to and what they don't get up to, and that's including media people that never actually played the game, but obviously speak about it and get paid very well to speak about it. Let's not forget that they live life, and there's plenty of things we all know that they get up to behind closed doors. But if that was reported on, and yet it seems that the people that do that generally go the hardest, which I find ironic and wrong. So that'll be a fascinating interview.
It will be. So you've got feedback in the past from, say, like an Alistair Clarkson. That was for a story you almost broke, like about Cyril. We've spoken about that.
Which ended up proving correct.
Being correct. Have you ever got feedback over an opinion from a player maybe disagreeing with you or something like that, or some strong – you've heard that they're upset with you or something like that?
Okay, so in recent times, we're celebrating how good Nick Daicos is, and he is. By the way, another very good game on the weekend. But I think it was last year where, I didn't say that he pulled out, but I said he could have gone hard, a little bit harder at a particular ball. I said, I celebrated him. I said, but probably could have gone a little bit harder at a ball. And Peter Daicos his dad heard about it. So his dad let a few people know, that Duck was saying that, he jumped out of the boat and all that, which I didn't say. So it was secondhand information. But I heard he was upset about it. So that when I ran into Peter, the first thing I do, I don't, unlike others that hide in the corner and don't come across, I went straight up to Peter and said, hey, I heard you're a bit upset about something I said. What is it you think you heard, or did you hear it, or did you hear it secondhand? And he told me, and I said, well, that's not how it was intended, and certainly didn't say that your son, shied themselves. I said, I just thought that there was a particular contest where he probably, he second guessed. And once I clarified that, Peter goes, oh yeah, no, all good. And then you move on. So I'd prefer to, if you do say something, I'd prefer to, get on the front foot rather than on the back foot, which a lot of people do. A lot of people, there's a few people that hide that can't face too many.
Hard conversations.
And nor should they be able to either, because some of what they say is scathing, and once again, they forget that they've been there.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on to the weekend's games, Saturday, I wanted to get your opinion on this. So we've got some friends who live down the road in the West. I would say they're much like myself and my partner, very down-to-earth, very casual people. I would say that they're the opposite of the gender reveal type. So we were invited over for it. It was not a gender reveal.
They were going far and wide today.
They were very firm on the fact that it was not a gender reveal as such. It was just a quiet gathering where we learned the sex of their child to be. And so what happened was the hospital had sent through an email with the sex of their child. They'd forwarded it on to a cake maker who'd made a cake which was either going to be blue on the inside or pink on the inside. And so they cut into it, and they found out they were having a baby girl. They've already got a girl, so 2 girls. So he's outnumbered, this guy now. So I just wanted your opinion on...
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you my opinion, and it's pretty blunt. And that is, the only people that really care about what the gender of the baby are the parents and grandparents, and maybe, the brother or the sister, an auntie or an uncle. But everyone else at that party couldn't give a rat's. No, they couldn't.
Well, there was only two. We were the only other people there, so it wasn't.
Okay. Well, you didn't clarify that.
It wasn't.
I would say generally, everyone else there doesn't really care what gender the baby is, other than those key people. Because and there's reasons for that, because they might have a girl, so they'd prefer a boy, and if you have the grandparents, all of those things. But if you're just a neutral and just a friend, the one thing you just want a healthy baby.
Of course.
That's all you want.
Now, that is the right thing to say, but...
No, it's what I actually think. It's not...
I mean in terms of course you
Did you care what gender the baby was?
Well, I put myself in his shoes a little bit, and when you
wanted a boy.
Because they've got a girl and we've got a girl, and so now we both wanted a boy, and I could tell, although he's absolutely stoked to be having a girl, he was a little bit disappointed. So I felt a bit bad. I'm like, where do we go from here? But it wasn't like an over-the-top someone doing burnouts with blue smoke or okay. I felt okay about it. I didn't. Yeah,
it's interesting.
Anyway, we've got some footy to get through. What were your observations from the weekend? What do you want to talk about?
Well, Melbourne were what a great win that was. It also showed that people that think that Brisbane can't play at the MCG, I think they proved that they can, albeit they ended up panicking. It just goes to show you've just got to play. You can't save a game. You can't go into your shell and be negative. You've got to keep taking the game on, and Brisbane didn't do that. Melbourne, you've got nothing to lose. Collingwood have proven that that's how they play. Melbourne did the same thing, and what it also proved to me is Jake Meklsham has to be played every week. I would have said that. I know Bailey Fritsch is out of that team at the moment, so he's got an opportunity because of a few reasons, and he's been in and out in the last couple, but I just love the way he plays. He plays tall. He's a beautiful kick of the ball. He's tough. He's hard at it. He's good below his knees.
So there's room for him and Fritsch?
He's a lot. I think there is. Fritsch is obviously, he's what they say, he was going to be 6 or 7 weeks. That takes you to the end of the home and away. So he's going to be touch and go irrespective, or probably not 100% fit. So whether they took a chance. But Jake Meklsham is now a lock, and he's got to go right through to the end of this year. And who knows what may come of that. But he's a ripper. I was so happy for him because he has been in and out a little bit.
He obviously missed
lately.
He missed the flag, didn't he?
But also proved to me on the weekend, the Bombers are pretenders, which I said last week.
I knew you were going to say this.
For everyone that
I knew you were going to go.
Well, for everyone that was a little bit critical about that, I was proven correct.
Geelong they were never going to win down there.
No, but maybe could have been competitive.
Yeah, that would have been positive.
Might have been nice.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Geelong before you go to the next one, because I looked at that game and thought, I know it's in Geelong, and we've spoken about away games and the differences that those make, but I looked at Geelong's midfield at one stage, and yes, Patrick Dangerfield was in there, but he played only half a game in the midfield. Yes, Mark Blitzarves is a very versatile player, but you got
Big
guys
body.
like Max Holmes, who's a good emerging footballer, Tom Atkins, Tanner Brun, not necessarily world beaters yet anyway.
Oh, Atkins has been consistent for a while.
Been consistent, but
Close is really, you're right, he's got heaps of talent.
But why are these? I guess the question was, what is it about Geelong that they've been able to nurture these young guys and build a system or a culture that means that they can blow away? And like Essendon has talent in that midfield. You'd think they would have put up more of a...
Because of all of those blokes have had to wait for their turn. They've had so much talent go through the middle of that ground, Geelong, and for a long time, no one could get a game in there. Now all of a sudden, guys are getting a look.
So is that about standards?
And they're exciting. Yeah, well, they've had to play so much, VFL footy and bide their time in other positions, and now they're getting that opportunity and they're grabbing it with both hands. And that's the culture, that's the strength of the club that they've created over a long period of time. That's why they're such a great club.
What does culture mean to you then?
They're a massive. It's an overused word.
Yeah.
People think if you win, you've got a good culture. That's not necessarily right either. People think you can build a good culture over a couple of weeks or 5 or 6 weeks. I think culture is built over years, a long time. So it's a buzzword. Oh, we got a good culture. Yeah, you win. Oh, we got a good culture. At the moment, guess what? The Blues culture's come good the last 4 weeks. The Blues have got a great culture. I will say about the Blues,
Are they still missing finals?
I still don't think they'll play finals.
Where are they now? So let me just...
They beat Port Adelaide. We know they beat Port Adelaide.
Understrength.
Great win. No, but that's a fantastic win for the Blues. So they went in favourites in that game. So there was a little bit of expectation around.
So they're half a game outside the 8. There's 4 teams ahead of them. They're only 2 points ahead of them. So they've
got a tough run.
Okay.
They've got a tough run, I think. And I still don't think Mackay's going to miss some footy.
Yep.
I just think they're going to do the same. They're going to do the same as what they've done the last couple of years, and they're going to tease, and they're going to fall just short, unfortunately, again. But look, the positives are they're giving their fans something to cheer about, and I love the way they're at least playing now. They're surging the ball. They're taking the game on. They're moving it.
Why does this happen? What is it? We coach players into oblivion, and then the shackles are off, and
yeah, we talk about it a lot, don't we? Sides, and I think it's because all of a sudden the pressure, maybe that they feel like the pressure is off. Like, oh well, we're done now, and they just play with the freedom. I don't know whether you believe what you read in the paper. I certainly don't, but apparently they had a campfire, the old campfire. Go to the movies, have a few beers together, and tell a few home truths. I mean, you should be doing that every week anyway. That's including the beers, by the way, and the home truths.
Jack Silvagni, he kicked 4 goals on the weekend. He's a guy that I feel he's a guy of, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, he hasn't got the talent of some others or the athleticism of some others, but I feel like he gets everything out of himself that he can. Is that fair?
I don't think Jack can play a permanent forward role because I think he's too easy to lock down on. He bobbed up on the weekend and well done, but as a permanent forward, I don't think he has enough tricks to for instance, do that on a regular basis, what he did on the weekend. And that's why he plays in his greatest strength, Jack, is his desire, his will, his commitment, and his versatility. That's what Jack Silvagni brings. He doesn't have the height. He plays above his height every week, but he doesn't have the, the real skill set. Remember, he's played as a tagger, he's played, run with, he's played as a ruckman, he's played as a key defender, he's played as a forward, he's played on the wing. Where does he fit? And I think that's why everyone, people sort of say he can be the first one left out, but because he hasn't really nailed down one particular position. But he's a valuable component to that team, I think. I just love the way he goes about it.
I saw in the game between West Coast and Richmond yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, Maurice Rioli, who he had a relatively quiet game. He's never a big possession winner. He's more about tackles and pressure, but he was subbed off early in the third quarter and he wasn't happy. I think it was Savan Maric who tried to give him the phone. Obviously someone, the coach maybe in the box, who wanted to have a chat to him. He said, nah, I'm having none of that, fellas.
Well, you're better off. If you think you're going to say something that you don't want to, you're probably better off not speaking.
Yeah.
Don't you?
It's pretty fair in that scenario, isn't it, when you've just been sure, if you're a coach, do you wait 5-10 minutes or do you think he should be answering
they probably want to give him automatic feedback why he's come off and why they made that change just to make him feel better, but it doesn't at that particular time, especially if you're a bit heated up. There's numerous times where, the runner came out to give me a message and he got told within 15 metres where to go. and I've seen it numerous. I've seen a lot of players, be like that with the runner. Not so many have the courage to do it to the coach. Yeah. But a few have.
Ever do anything that got you dragged to the bench and Dennis on the phone?
Yeah, I've been a
couple of 50s
on a few occasions. Yeah, giving away 50 metres or a stupid free kick. Come on, and you know why you're coming off. So on your way to the bench, you're saying to yourself, if this curly head, Dennis had curly, you'd be. I'm just gonna give it back to him, and he'd get.
Would he be angry, or would it be? Or would he more like Wayne? I'm disappointed in you.
Oh, no, he could be angry, given that only the people in the box are hearing what he's saying. But you'd sort of say, "Oh, thanks for letting me know that, Dennis, because I didn't want to." I didn't know why I was coming off. It's a bit like when, you look at a mate, and they've got a big pimple on their forehead, and you say, "Oh, by the way, did you know you got a pimple on your forehead?" You go, "What do you reckon, stupid?" Or you say, "Oh, geez, you're balding." "Oh, what do you reckon?" "Oh, you reckon I don't look in the mirror?" Of course I know I'm balding. So it's a bit of one of those, and that's why we get a little bit defensive when we get those obvious comments.
I love those runner stories, though. I think of some of my mates playing local footy, and some of them are pretty confident in their own ability and good footballers at that level, and the runner would go out trying to tell them to come off, and there's even maybe more license at local level to tell the runner to get stuff. No, I'm not. I can't come off, fellas.
No, and I would have thought a little bit more scathing at local level than AFL, but no, it happens. It happens a lot.
What else have you got for us from the weekend? Any other observations that you wanted to go through from the football before I go on? I've got some quick questions for you shortly.
Yeah, with the coach, there's a lot of talk about Stuart Dew. We put out a question whether he should have been sacked or should have, they waited till the end of the year. Just over 50% said wait till the end of the year. I tend to, when there's only 4 rounds to go, what are you going to achieve by saying, I just thought it was... I didn't think it was great timing. I thought the messaging from the club once again, Caroline Wilson, by the way, well done, Caro, got criticised by a lot of people for coming out and being strong, that she'd heard that was going to occur, and her counterparts, gave her a really hard time, as did a lot of other people, and she was proven to be right. So you've got to give credit where credit's due. I will say this, that the big one is Ken Hinkley. So they get beaten on the weekend. They're going to finish top 4. I think they're the best team in it right now. I think they have the best balance. They had a few out on the weekend. They lost. But I like their whole ground. I think they're good. They're very strong in the mid. They're young. They've got young, talented forwards. They don't rely on Dixon anymore. He obviously wasn't there on the weekend. I think their defence is really strong. Jonas came back in on the weekend, but the captain's only just got back into the team. So their balance is really, and then they've got a guy, Ken Hinkley, who is uncontracted. If I was Ken, I would wait. I'd want to wait to the end of the year anyway and see how the year pans out, because he's going to have options no matter what. And Ken's coaching career would go further I think, if he left Port Adelaide.
Because he'd get a longer deal.
Irrespective of what they do this year. Even if they won the flag this year, of course, he probably wouldn't go and they would say, no, but they're not going to wait until that happens anyway. It's going to be re-signed. I would wait. If I was Ken, I'd wait. And then, he will get a 4 or 5 year, he'll get a 4-year deal at another club. No problems at all. So obviously there's got to be a club that's, in the waiting for a coach. And as we know, there's only one of those at the moment, isn't there?
Well, that's the question about Gold Coast. I wonder,
Richmond's the other one. So you've got Richmond and Gold Coast.
Would Gold Coast have made the decision they did if they didn't have some sort of verbal commitment from a Damien Hardwick, maybe that he'd at least go through the process?
Correct. That's my opinion. There's no doubt that they think that they can land one of a bigger fish.
Because otherwise,
a successful coach.
You couldn't sack a coach and have no plan, could you? There'd be no point. Not right now, anyway.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Yeah. I think there's that'd be derelict in their duties if they didn't or hadn't have reached out to Damien Hardwick and others.
So in that context, can you understand this? Like if Hardwick said, well, I don't really want to go through any sort of process with you or talk to you while you still have a senior coach, do you think it becomes fairer that they made the call on Stuart Dew in that scenario?
I don't think it's ever fair. I mean, they're always left in the dark. Stewie Dew thought he had the backing of the board like they always do, that old chestnut. The board says, yeah, we're right behind you. And, it's just so many pork pies and so many leaks at footy clubs.
Yeah. You
think that you're all on the same page. Strong footy clubs. Do you ever hear any leaks out of Geelong or Sydney? These really strong clubs, you just don't hear any sort of whispers out of those clubs. Whereas you got other clubs.
So why do they happen? I mean, I feel like I have an understanding because there might be people with agendas, but why do you think people in the football department say?
Yeah, there's some people that speak to people. There's clearly someone spoke to Caroline Wilson.
Yeah,
and that's because I don't know, they obviously want to feel important. I don't know whether do media outlets pay for information?
Not in that scenario. She wouldn't. Not in that scenario. She wouldn't be paying.
But does that happen? Can you pay for information from a footy club? Has that ever happened before?
I haven't heard of that. I have heard of blokes down at the local medical clinic years and years ago being slung $50 if a player walked in and they gave a journo a call. But
really,
I don't think that definitely hasn't happened in my time.
No, I'm just wondering whether it does happen, whether you can actually, as a media outlet or as an individual, you can actually pay for information on whether someone's going to get the sack or not.
Maybe that happens at a higher level than I, but I have not heard of that.
No, I'm just wondering whether it actually occurs or not. The other thing, there's a lot of talk. The AFL women's draw has just come out. And they're going with 10 rounds. 10 rounds. Now, how many teams are there now?
It's a good question. Well, there's more than 10 teams now.
The reason why I want to bring this up, and it irked me a little bit, because it's growing. What are we in our seventh? They're in their 7th year, I think it is. But it irked me a little bit because in women's sport all around the world at the moment, look at our cricketers. Our cricketers are they're really good to watch. I actually sit down and watch our girls play cricket.
They just won the Women's Ashes overnight.
Yeah, and brilliant. And then we got the World Cup soccer with Sam Kerr leading the way. And do you watch? I don't know whether you've ever watched a world class soccer game with they are unbelievably good, and it's actually really, really good to watch. I think because of the draw. Now, hear me. Because of the draw, I think the AFL Women's is a Mickey Mouse competition. Why are they only playing 10 rounds? Like how many teams are there now?
So every AFL team has an AFLW team now.
So there's 18.
Yep.
18 teams going into this year's, and they're going to play 10 games. For that reason, not because of the way they play, not because of the way they.
So people will pick up on you saying Mickey.
I don't give a crap what they pick up on.
But you're not talking about the players,
no,
are you? You're talking about.
Well, I think I made that quite clear. Because it's only 10 rounds, I look at it as a Mickey Mouse competition.
And that's what the women have been saying in there.
It's like a pre-season comp. 10 rounds. I mean, the players back in the Ansett Cup days, we played 4 or 5 games. If you played finals in the Ansett Cup, you played 5 or 6 games in the pre-season before the season even started, and they're playing 10 rounds. For that reason, I can't take it seriously. I mean, how is it even remotely fair for starters when they're not even playing one another once?
So this is what the women have been arguing as part of their CBA.
Well, I think it's a pretty good argument.
So is this is the AFL's fault, is it?
So they brought in. Well, whose fault is it?
Well, the AFL argument has been around, a drop in television ratings, a drop in crowd numbers, and therefore costs.
They've committed to it. They've all of a sudden they've taken the league from. Well, why is there 18 teams then?
Well, maybe that's the problem.
They've brought in 18, so now there's 18 teams, and they've kept it to 10 rounds.
Yeah,
it is Mickey Mouse.
I agree. You do need to probably play each team once, don't you?
Don't have 18 teams if you're only going to play 10 rounds. Yep. I think they've stuffed it right up.
Yep.
And for that reason, maybe that's why people have dropped off. Maybe that's why audiences have dropped off. Maybe that's why people aren't going as much, because they look at it the same way.
Strong, very strong.
Well, I don't know. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it should.
You don't get nervous about agreeing with something.
No, I agree in part, but I also can see the financial realities and the cost.
Well, don't bring in 18 teams then.
Yeah, this competition would be a huge expense, and I understand that they see it as investment because now we are getting a huge number of females participating in AFL footy,
junior sport, all the junior clubs. You go to the country now, and all of the country clubs have the girls playing, and it's started to become exciting again at country, because a lot of kids stopped playing, or clubs have gone under since COVID, and those clubs have struggled because of all of the different reasons, economic reasons, and the girls have reinvigorated that at country level in a lot of ways. So you know what, make it a proper comp.
Yep,
not a Mickey Mouse one.
That's fair. All right, I'm gonna fire you some quick fire questions here. So we did the Stuart Dew one, whether that was the right call or not. I'm gonna go off footy just for one. Does Dave Warner keep his spot for the next test? Would you stick with him?
I would.
Hasn't made a whole lot of runs.
No, I'd give him one more chance.
Okay.
One more chance. By the way, he's been such a great player for Australia, and I know everyone's now saying his test career. Well, maybe, he'll go off and do some great things, obviously still in the T20 and the one-day competition, I would assume. But yeah, I'd go with him again. He's given this country a lot.
Brodie Grundy has been very topical, given how Max Gawn played and Melbourne set up on the weekend. If you're Melbourne, do you try or even Brodie Grundy from his camp, do you now try and initiate a trade at the end of the season where he can become a number one ruckman or not?
Premature to do that. He's been left out for a week. There's still a fair bit of time to go. There's still finals to go. I still think that combination will be something that they will end up with before the finals.
I think they'll try it again, but I'm just not sold on, because Max, he played 95% game time, and he was huge, and Grundy's, I think, proven that he wants that sort of ruck time.
I think it'll be tried again, and it'll work. Remember, Max has the ability to, unlike Grundy, who they said my play as a forward or played in that scratch match as a forward. The one thing Max Gawn does have the ability to do, and that is push forward and clunk marks.
Yeah.
So you have Grundy on ball, and then Max obviously forward a little bit more. That's my opinion. I think it'll still work.
Okay.
I'm a glass half full person, though.
I want to throw up a left field option for Brodie Grundy at the end of the year. And yes, it is very early. It's only one game. I know Port Adelaide's been spoken about, but I just wonder if Tom De Koning leaves Carlton, they would have put a bit of money in the cap for him. Could Brodie Grundy be absolute bargain basement if Collingwood's paying part of his salary, Melbourne is potentially paying part of his salary? I don't know.
Well, for the third club, he would be a bargain. It would be a bargain. I don't think it's going to happen, though.
Okay. My third quickfire question, we spoke about North Melbourne last week, and you were talking about...
What more can you say?
You were talking about green shoots and all this stuff. Well, it exploded in my mate's group chat, and a few of these boys are absolute one-eyed North Melbourne. So they love you and everything you say. But this week they were talking about priority picks. And they believe that given you've only won a handful of games for 4 seasons now, you did get an assistance package. There was a couple of second rounders or something like that. They believe that North Melbourne is deserving of a more substantial priority pick assistance package from the AFL. Yes or no?
I'm a big believer that you go back in history. Did Melbourne get it when they were down the bottom? Did they get priority picks when they were really struggling?
Did they get one in the Scully Trengo year? Yep.
Yeah. So I think you just base it off precedence. If other clubs have been given it before, then North Melbourne gets it. If they haven't, then they don't. So I understand there have been teams that have got priority picks when they've been struggling. So if that's the case, then North Melbourne should get one. But if not, no.
Have they met this? So you think they've met the threshold?
They've met the threshold.
Look at you.
Well, you can't be any more putrid, can you?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. No, that's fair. Do you think we should have priority picks at all? Should we just get rid of them, or do you think they're important for when?
No, I think they do have some importance when you have a side, when you have teams that are battling like these teams, and they do need a little bit of help. Just to you don't want this competition. You don't want teams getting flogged. West Coast have been better the last couple of weeks, which has been pleasing. But North Melbourne had that really strong month, and then they've now fallen off. They've fallen off the last 3 or 4 weeks.
They have, yes.
They probably need 10 priority picks, to be honest.
You have said in the past you're a bit of a boxer, and often
I'm not a boxer.
You did a little bit of.
I've never said that.
Okay, you've never said it. Do you have any other talents other than football? Sporting talents?
Sporting talents.
Do you or are you? You're
I'm a one-trick pony.
You're a one-trick pony.
I was a one-trick pony. Yeah, well, that's what all my teammates used to say anyway.
So if you never get invited to go have a round of golf somewhere or anything like that?
Or? Oh, I get invited because I'm an easy defeat.
I watched Steph Curry on the weekend. Did you see that? He got a hole-in-one in this celebrity tournament, and he won the tournament, a celebrity tournament. Mm. He can seriously play.
Yeah, Michael Jordan can play. You've got heaps of footballers, Brendan Goddard, Sam Fisher, Ricky Ponting.
Never had a hit with punter, being a big North Melbourne man or anything like that?
No, never. No, well, I don't invite myself to go and play golf because I'm crap. And I only like doing things that I'm good at. So yes. Why would I?
Where people are patting you on the back.
Why would I go and make a fool? But I had some teammates like Craig Scholl, and he was an unbelievable water skier. Whether he could have been professional in that. Out of other couple of other players that were good at other things. I could have probably played rugby league. That is, let's be honest, it's not that hard. You pass it backwards and run forwards. So
I did see, actually, I should have written it down. We did get a viewer question about growing up in that sort of heartland and the skills that are transferable between those two sports.
Oh, you sidestep. That's about it. It's not that hard a sport. Sorry, Joey Johnson and a few of the other legends. Wally Lewis.
Before we move on, remiss not to talk about, just briefly, Wimbledon last night as well. I did stay up until about 2 o'clock. I only got through halfway through the third set between Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz won in 5.
About bloody time we've got someone else other than the big 3, big 4. I mean, isn't it great to have another champion at Wimbledon? He's good-looking rooster too. He's exciting. So I thought it was just awesome. Maybe the end of the reign, which is, like I said, so it should be. They've been the top for too long, these blokes.
Incredible. I read this morning. So Alcaraz wasn't born the last time someone out of the big 4, Federer, Nadal, Murray or Djokovic had won Wimbledon. So that's how long it's been. Yeah. It's incredible.
It was great to see.
Well, Duck, you got a big couple of days coming up. Have we got anything else before we go in for surgery that you want to touch on?
If I'm not here next week, well, you know why. I haven't come through the surgery.
Well, thanks again for listening. This has been another episode of The Truth Hurts. We'll catch you hopefully next week.